U.S. to create a space force to protect space assets and to fight wars in space. In a speech delivered to U.S. Marines in San Diego, President Donald Trump declared support for the United States developing a new space-based branch of the military, called the Space Force. My new national strategy for space recognizes that space is also a war-fighting domain, just like the land, air and sea, declared Trump. We may even have a space force, we'll develop another one. We have the Air Force, we'll have the Space Force. The idea was initially floated last year when the House Armed Service Committee, led by Republican Chairman Mike Rogers and Ranking Member Democrat Jim Cooper, proposed a new branch of the military called the U.S. Space Corps. The legislation was widely criticized at the time and seen as unnecessary, with a division of the U.S. Air Force, called Air Force Space Command, already essentially serving the function of a military arm devoted to space defenses. It was unclear whether the president was still joking by the time he finished his off-script remarks about a space force. The White House did not respond to a request for comment. But Trump is not the only political leader in Washington who is mulling the idea of a space force. In June of 2017, a contingent of House lawmakers proposed dividing the Air Force into two separate branches, one dedicated to aviation and a second, new branch dedicated to space ventures. Last year, some legislators pushed a bill in Congress that included a provision to establish a new branch of the military dubbed the Space Corps. But the Pentagon itself has resisted, saying it does not need to create another bureaucracy. At a time when we are trying to integrate the department's joint war-fighting functions, I do not wish to add a separate service that would likely present a narrower and even parochial approach to space operations, Defense Secretary Jim Mattis told Representative Michael Turner in a letter in July. The idea was dropped from the Pentagon's funding bill by the end of last year, but it retains some support in Congress, where advocates say the United States is facing significant strategic vulnerabilities in the face of Russian and Chinese ventures into space warfare. A military and national security aspect to space, even though there are treaties aimed at keeping space a place of peace. Language to create a new military branch called the Space Corps did not make it into the final National Defense Authorization Bill in November, but there were several new directives included in the legislation that could facilitate the space plan in the future. The military space program has mostly been led by the Air Force. For the past several years, the military has been flying an unmanned space plane, U.S. officials said. I don't think we need a Space Corps, said Hyten at a security forum in Canada. I had a boss one time that told me that you don't need a Space Corps until you've got X-wing fighters. That's about the timing I think you would need when you get the need for a Space Corps. It just adds more bureaucracy. Despite Trump's declared support of the idea, it is unclear how much he knows of the progress already made towards his stated goals. Trump said maybe we need a new force. We'll call it the Space Force. And I was really serious, and then I said, what a great idea, maybe, we'll have to do that, that could happen. Thank you for watching. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe.